La 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 la.
Hello, hello.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 90. I always do this. Oh, damn it. I cussed. I'll cut it out. 94, maybe? Might be 95. Of Conservatish. My name is Peter Feliciano. I am your host. And you can support this podcast at patreon.com/conservatish. Find me on Instagram at Peter_Feliciano. And you can find me on September 13th. My giant album release party at Brick and Mortar Music Hall is going to be Poya Del Mar, the drag queen, is going to MC. Jefferson Berge is going to open. Legendary hip-hop DJ Kevy Kev is going to be on the ones and twos. Do you know what the ones and twos are?
Sure.
Okay. The turntables and DJing for an hour afterwards. It's going to be a lot of fun, so you need to be there. September 13th, Brick and Mortar Music Hall. You can find your tickets right now at TicketWeb, or just Google it. You know, it's 2019. That's it for my commercials in the beginning. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest, our former guest, friend of the show, Lily Akopova.
Hello, everyone.
She's back, ladies and gentlemen. Just to annoy you people who are... Actually, I didn't hear too much bad reviews from yours.
Just being here to be politically incorrect, as always.
Yes, as always. But now you get to see her live in the flesh. And still, I'm going to not cuss, even though my second word was the F word. I'm going to do my best. So I want you all to just send me good vibes, even though you're not going to see this for another couple weeks. I want you all to give me good vibes to hopefully, so that hopefully I can not cuss.
I appreciate that.
It's very difficult for me.
I appreciate that.
I'm a giving person.
Yes.
I'm a nice man, and so yeah, I wanted to have you back on at least once before I head to New York. Finding anyone in the Bay Area who's conservative or right leaning or even libertarian, openly anyway, is hard to do.
Yeah.
And you're one of the more vocal people that I find.
I'm very much vocal. Yeah, I'm not shy at all.
Well, especially because I found that since, I think it's been like 9 months or 10 months since you were on the show. And what I found, you've definitely been much more vocal when it comes to wearing, your attire.
Yes.
Trump is your president,
yes,
T-shirts,
sir.
hats like that. So what has been your experience with that type of stuff?
I actually remember that the first time I was on your show, that many months ago, I was kind of thinking of finally wearing the MAGA hat.
Mm-hmm.
And you actually was like, I'll go with you, I'll support you. And I was so nervous still, but, I was only starting to think about that. I was just entertaining the idea.
Right.
And since then, it's been amazing. I mean, I wear shorts more often than the hat because the hat, I feel like they can be more violent with that.
Yeah.
With the shirt, what
You
are they
can
going
knock
to
it
do?
off.
Are they going to take off? They can't do anything with
Right.
the shirt. So
Right.
I'm kind of safe there. But definitely have people stop me and try to talk to me. Some people just like walk away pissed off, which is just totally fine with me.
Sure.
But it's just nice to be able to be free again, and just
What type of shirts?
Trump is your president. Trump Wall Construction Crew is one of my favorites.
Trump World Construction Crew. Okay.
Trump Wall, yeah.
Sure.
A lot of just like women for Trump, just whatever. Trump related.
Right. Where do you normally get them, or is it one funneled area?
Have
you bought your Trump straws yet?
Well, I haven't yet, but I've had my amazing Facebook friends mail me plastic straws because I was complaining about the paper straws.
They're the worst.
Sucking.
They are awful.
Yeah, and so somebody was actually kind enough to just mail
Right.
a bag of plastic straws to me, which I thought was so sweet.
Right.
And so now I have to carry with me. I have one with me right now, a plastic straw, just in case I need it.
And then the way you trash is
Sad.
you literally walk up to the ocean and throw it in. Just
I
like
saw
my
you do
ad.
that.
Did you see? Yeah.
I saw you do that.
No, I saw some ad or some statistic that America is responsible, is way far behind. I think we're like 2% of the pollution when it comes to plastics in the ocean.
Okay.
India and China are the biggest, especially China. China doesn't care at all about any pollution or air quality or any of that stuff. And then plastic straws are 0.02%.
But even so, even if things were looking bad for us, is this really the priority? Really? I mean, they are killing babies after 9 months after their birth, and this was your priority?
Yeah.
No.
All right. Let's just go ahead and dip right into abortion. Screw it.
Okay.
So I think last time you were on, we might have talked about abortion. Maybe just tertiarily, as if I understand what that word means. But what is, like, it's definitely ramped up and it's gotten much more in the crosshairs. What was your experience before? Because you told your story last time you were on of being liberal and then starting to change your mind, especially when you saw people reacting the way they did to 2016. What was your experience or your opinions about abortion before?
Right. So before, when I was a brainwashed liberal, I really wasn't sure because I never cared about politics anyway. I just believed in whatever I thought the majority believed in, so I could fit in.
I think that's a 20s thing too.
Right.
Isn't it? That's like a 19,
millennials, yeah. And then, as I started to slowly, doing research and changing my views, even when I was, walking away from the Democrats, I still was unsure. There were some instances where I was like, ooh, I'm not so sure about this. For example, of course, the incest and rape situations. I thought, okay, well, that's an exception. I can't, You
would have liked to keep pro-choice on those.
Right.
Yeah.
But then, again, the more I thought about it, the more I processed it. And a lot of people might disagree with me, and that's fine. It's fine to disagree with me.
Right.
But it's just my belief that, I'm a religious person. I'm a Christian, and God gave that life. Okay, you are a creation of God, and we don't have the right to take away the life. Okay? I didn't give that life. I don't have the right to take it away. And then I see a lot of stories of people who were, born because of rape, right? And they have signs where they say, yeah, this is how I was born, but I love my life. And just can you imagine all the groups of people who were born like that, and they're being told that you deserve to die,
right?
Just because this is how you were conceived.
Or being told that your mother wanted to get rid of you.
Exactly. It's just my heart. I just can't.
Yeah, no, I would. As it stands right now, my opinion as far as that goes is I do like the way Ben Shapiro put it.
I love him.
Was the idea that one evil is not corrected or made better by another evil.
Exactly.
And killing someone is evil.
Exactly.
So we try not to, whatever you want to call it, you could take the word sin out of it, but murder is not okay. And just because someone did something, and I don't mean that like the, Omar, whatever, just because someone awful did something awful, and, that's a completely separate, that's a horrible crime, and it's hurtful and all that.
Yes.
Doesn't mean then the reaction to that needs to be, let's kill this kid.
Exactly. Exactly.
And at the same time, my biggest fight is always for the fact that call it a life. Whatever, even if they just did decide to keep the laws exactly as they are, maybe not the 9-month one, but the keep the laws exactly as they have been since Roe v. Wade. Call it a life. Don't call it a clump of cells, because it is a life. And number two, don't say I can't have an opinion just because I have the wrong gender. You know what I mean? Like, I'm allowed to have an opinion.
Right.
If this life that's growing inside of someone is a completely separate life than the house that he or she is growing up in, you know what I mean? That he or she is gestated in. Anyway, doesn't mean that it needs to be completely thrown out or called a bundle of cells.
And that's a very good point when you said that, don't tell me I can't participate in discussion if I'm a male or because of my gender.
Right.
I see actually a lot of people who believe that it's not their right to say something because they're not the woman, but it takes two to make a baby. Okay, there's a father. And I actually heard a quote from somebody, a guy whose child was aborted, and he said, "That was my daughter you killed." Okay, because he has just as many rights. He's the father,
right.
And a lot of times they're not even told that, okay, abortion is going to happen, or it's just devastating.
Right. I also find, and maybe you know this from your experience, because I've talked to a lot of women over the years who don't like other women, and I've talked to a lot of women who they're always like, there's that one friend, even though you're friends, you don't like her, or she's jealous, or she's catty, God, it's hard to not cuss, and all this stuff, but all of a sudden, when it comes to the idea of talking about feminism or talking about abortion or talking about Me Too, suddenly all women think that all women are trustworthy. It's so strange that when we're in the real world out here at work, at your social gatherings, there's that one girl who, she lied about this, she lied about that. The reason why I bring that up is because I know women who have been. I've had multiple women on my show. Look them up, Allie and the Good Girl. And they told stories of knowing women who lied about pregnancy, knowing women who lied about being raped. So I'm not saying it happens often, but I'm saying it does happen. Just because someone has a vagina doesn't mean that they are above lying or being vindictive. I definitely have known women in my life who, and have dated some of them, who would possibly abort a baby or not abort a baby in order to manipulate the situation or punish a man or something like that. And all women that I've talked to know women like that, but just suddenly when it comes to feminism, we all just make believe all women are just wonderful and all men are just bad. Mm-hmm. I hate that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. No, I stand up for men's rights very much, and a lot of people who I have to be around because of whatever, we're in the same circles, they like to make fun of me because of that, and I don't care.
Do they make fun of you like actually mean,
they will
or do
say
they
something like men's rights? Oh, she's talking about men's rights. Let's talk about how hard men have it later. Just sarcastic comments like that, which don't do that, because I will reply.
Do you ever talk do you ever clap back in Russian? I would love to see that. I would love to see it. No, I can't cuss, but I know a couple of. Adnaka. What does adnaka mean? Doesn't that mean?
However.
Oh, I thought it means
adnaka?
I can't believe that happened. Like adnaka, no?
Adnaka
I know
means
da,
however.
niet, adnaka, and.
Oy, you just cussed.
I'll cut it out.
Okay.
Anyway,
it's
sorry.
Okay.
Continue.
It's in Russian. Nobody knows.
Go ahead.
What was I saying? Right. I stand up for men's rights.
And they're annoyed by you.
Huh?
And they're annoyed by you.
And they're annoyed by me, and so I just keep going.
Of course. It's fun.
Yeah. And women, absolutely. I'm just more comfortable with men just discussing subjects like this, because a woman will definitely tell me that I am not, I'm a traitor to my gender if I disagree with them on anything, and I just go back to Russia. Those people who are supposedly pro-immigrants, and I'm an immigrant, they
people
will
have
tell
told
me,
you to go back to Russia?
Yeah, America doesn't want you. Go back to Russia. Yeah. And I say I have more rights to be here than your illegal friends.
I'll show you.
So
I'll show you papers.
I've got my passport, so.
Right. I actually, the identity politics is the worst. I saw somebody posted something, a guy who I'm not super close with, but he posted something out of the blue because he's pretty liberal in a lot of ways. He said, "Would you stop bothering with the Robert Mueller investigation and just focus on how good the economy is?"
Thank you.
And all of a sudden, everyone just boom jumped on him, and people have. I've heard people tell me that you're racist, or white supremacist, or blah blah, Nazi, blah blah blah. Every other word is Nazi, white supremacist, blah blah. And me, the half Puerto Rican, decides to chime in. I'm like, okay, I'll tell you what. I don't mind the dude. I don't mind trying because he's fighting with all these people listing statistics. They're getting personal. He's keeping it to statistics. If he was racist,
Right.
why would black unemployment be down and Mexican unemployment be down and women unemployment? Why would the GDP be all this stuff, right? And everyone's just like, yeah, white privilege, white blah blah blah. And as the half Puerto Rican, I was like, okay, so if anyone wants to play the identity politics game, here's someone from my show who is a woman who likes Trump. Here's someone from my show who's a black Trump supporter. Here's someone from my show who's a Mexican Trump supporter. Because I like popping that balloon of identity politics because that's real racism. To think that you have a vagina, so you have to think this way.
Right.
Bette Midler did that. Did you see that tweet Bette Midler did?
Yeah.
Where she was like, "Who those black people in the Trump rally photos?
Blackground.
Who did he pay to be in the background?" And that's actually racist.
So they can't have an independent thought. So they can't be like think independently like white
Exactly.
people.
No.
That is the definition of racist, and she got a lot of backlash for that, and
She
good.
did. She did. Yeah.
Now, I agree completely about the identity politics. However, sometimes I like to play around with it and kind of use
course.
this against them because
Yeah.
I myself am. So I've got some victimhood points to speak their language. I'm a woman, right?
Right.
That's my victimhood right there.
You poor thing.
Right. I don't know how I did this. Then I'm an immigrant. Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Right.
And 3, I've got some Middle Eastern roots. I've got some Middle Eastern blood, so I'm using that. Right? They don't care about me being from Russia. It's about they because they actually can be racist.
Right.
They the Middle Eastern part is more important to them.
Right.
And so whenever I see online, right, this happens a lot, that a man will comment that he disagrees with a lady who said something that was feminist. And the lady will reply, and this actually has happened, I'm sorry, I don't remember asking a white male's opinion on this. I should have clarified. Maybe next time. My bad.
Right.
And then I reply, this is where I come in the script.
Yay.
And that's where I say, let me introduce myself. Female, Middle Eastern, immigrant. And then I copy and paste his exact comment. Now what you gonna do?
Right.
Go ahead.
Right.
So it's like, through me, I guess he have to ask through me for you to take him seriously.
Right. It's insane. Because ultimately, I do agree. I don't like the identity politics, but I like using it against them.
Right.
I like
that's
using
exactly
it against
what I'm
them.
saying.
I
yes.
like playing around. I mean, that's part of the whole reason why I started the damn podcast was because is damn all right?
Yeah, that's fine. Okay.
I got it. I'm so good. Patreon.com/conservatish. So I wanted to be a stick in the mud. I enjoy being rebellious. I enjoy being sarcastic and sardonic. I like being that annoying guy just going against the grain. And the large wave of just identity politics and the fact that people are blinded by emotion and blinded by I want my team to win and they'll throw anything at you makes me want to just prove them all wrong. And and this podcast is a great way to do it. But the problem is that then people. I have literally, and I know you've experienced this, and I may have talked about this on the last show, but I've had people completely disavow me almost because even though we've done shows together, we've done music together, we've broken bread, I've stayed at their house, they've stayed, you know what I mean? Like we are friends.
Of course.
And completely like as soon as they heard the name or as soon as they saw that I had a Proud Boy on or as soon as they just completely lost their mind and they haven't even been able to listen.
Easily.
I
Same.
even had a guy, a black rapper, message me the other day, who's like, "Hey, I like your stuff, and I support you, but I can't be open about it because I'll get canceled."
Right. And I know a lot of people like that too. Unfortunately, because they'll lose their job or whatever, they can't come out. But yeah. Just recently, same. I was friends with this girl for a long time, and then I came out as a Republican, and of course that's where things got really weird. And then recently,
on social media only, or things got weird in person?
Of course, everything. Right. And so I posted something. I'm kind of proud of this. I mean, I think it's funny, but it says "Have an Ice Day." Okay, obviously, have an ice day.
Last Sunday.
And this is what is what she said, okay, I tried to tolerate your post as much as I could, but this, I'm gonna fight you on this.
Nice.
And I'm like, okay, let's go.
Yeah.
And she said, how dare you? I've got ancestors. You're coming after my family and all of this. And I'm saying, yeah, I mean, if my family did this, I still would be against it. If my family tried to come here illegally, sometimes I'm in an Uber car, and this Russian guy, who obviously I have this, a better connection because we're from the same place,
Sure.
And he's like, yeah, I'm here illegally. In my head, I'm like, oh, why? Oh my
And
gosh,
they
I wish
told
you
you?
didn't. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I wish you didn't tell me. Why did you tell me? It doesn't matter who you are. There's legal and there's illegal.
Right.
Okay? There is no racism involved.
No.
It's the law, and nobody is above the law.
Right.
Okay? So, it didn't really happen. The argument didn't happen because you can't really say anything against what I'm saying. It's illegal. So you've got nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
All you can do is, make arguments based on feelings, which is not an argument.
Right.
So.
And the other thing is too is that it really is bigger than race. They're wanting to make it about race because they are ultimately, in my opinion, super racist.
Right.
And they want to say, oh, poor brown people. But I know I work in restaurants, and I know tons of Mexicans and Salvadorians and Colombians who have come here legally and
Same.
have the legal right to do so. And I know multiple Mexican immigrants who have come here legally who don't want illegal immigration. They did it the right way. My grandparents did it the right way from Puerto Rico. Why would they want everything just toned down? Why would they want it changed? Like, they don't want people to cut the line, you know what I mean? Like, you're an adult. Not only are those people who are immigrants illegally coming across the border illegally, they're adults, but also they're dragging kids along. They're dragging kids along, and you want to lower the bar for them because their skin is brown? That's racism. You know what I mean? Like, I don't get to say, well, my parents divorced and this happened, and list all my victim status and then get a blank check for my illegal or selfish behavior. It is illegal, and bigger, it is selfish to bring a child thousands of miles, no shoes, across, like a lot of those Salvadorians and Colombia, like a lot of those people coming up went through Mexico without shoes, went through Mexico without shelter, they're not just coming from Mexico. They're not just in Tijuana wanting to go to California. These are people who have gone long distances. They had a better life in Mexico, much less from the country they were from. And yet we're going to lower the bar for them. That's not okay. And the bar for being a selfless, kind, integrity-filled, adult should be just as high for someone who's white or Mexican or black or whatever. It doesn't matter what the skin color is.
Absolutely. And of course, as everybody knows, this didn't just start now when Trump became president. This has been the case. Nobody cared back then. And it's just, if Trump does something, that's when they riot. Okay,
Right.
If Trump told you not to breathe, I don't know. If Trump told you that breathing is good for you, you would stop breathing just because he said.
Right.
And so this is not about the poor children. This isn't about the poor families being separated. It's about going against anything and everything that Trump does.
Right. I love that you saw. I think it was I'm forgetting the guy's name. Do you remember the former head of immigration, former head of ICE was on, and AOC went after him. Oh, and he mopped the floor
That
with
was
her.
amazing.
Oh my God, it was great because he was like he made it very simple. He was like, of course they're being separated at the border. If I arrest an adult male for a DUI and he's got his kids with him, I'm going to separate them.
Yes.
I'm going to separate
Guess
them.
what? When you commit a crime, you go to jail, you get separated from your children. That's how it's always been. Maybe, just maybe, you shouldn't have committed the crime.
Right. And then she was like, no, these people they're not breaking the law. You're allowed to seek asylum. And he said, yeah, at the border.
Exactly.
Like at the actual gate. Go to if you're really seeking asylum, go to the crossing where there's a big old gate with guards and stuff and say, hey, I am seeking asylum. And okay, then there you go. But no, these people don't want to do that,
I love how when she said, with all due respect, those people didn't commit any crimes.
With all due
And
respect, I'm going to condescend to you
and
real
he
quick.
said, and he went, based on section this,
Right, right.
this kind of crime. It was beautiful. Oh
It
my
was.
God.
So where do you feel like your do you feel any liberalish ideas when it comes to abortion?
No.
Okay, but let me rephrase it. Do you feel so? Like for me, even though rape and incest is such a small, and I do believe it's wrong. Does a piece of you feel? Because for me, a piece of me feels like I don't know if I would want to make it a law to force somebody to gestate life. It feels weird to me. I'm not saying I think it's right to kill that baby in the womb, but it feels weird to me to say I'm going to force you, the government is going to force you to gestate a life.
Well, again,
in the cases of rape and incest.
Well, again, I'm looking at this at the from my religious perspective.
Sure.
And again, I see a lot of examples of people, even women who were raped, saying that this isn't the rapist's child, this is my child, and just because that happened doesn't mean that the child should suffer. And it's like and Democrats always make this case that if you have the child and then you can't take care of the child, they'll end up in foster care, whatever. And then what? So you would go to foster care and say, oh, I'm so sorry, if this were up to me, you'd be dead right now,
Right.
I'm so sorry you're in foster care.
Right.
No. Again, I believe that you're a child of the Most High God, and you have every right to be born. That life starts at conception, and that's just how it is.
Yeah, and I can understand being hardlined on that, and I don't think that's necessarily wrong. It just feels strange. You know what I mean? Like far as
and I felt the same. I'm telling you, in the beginning, I did not feel like this. It was a very long process. For years, I wasn't
Right.
sure. It's just now that I just. I started having these feelings that and again, I became more religious over
Sure.
time, and this is how I feel that it is not our job, it is not our creation. We don't have any rights to do this, and everyone has the right to be born.
Right, I can get behind that. How would the end game look like to you? Like how would we be able to implement that if that was law, that no abortion is legal? How would we be able to implement that when it comes to that type of stuff?
I don't think that's gonna happen anytime soon.
Okay, but
in
if it
this
did,
environment.
Like if it did, meaning, because I don't think it is either, whether it's right or wrong or blah blah blah. I don't think we're gonna be going full on pro-life to the point of zero tolerance. I think probably we'll get it pushed to first trimester, or something like that, where there's a hard line, like, hey, don't kill the kid after X.
Yeah.
But what if in your ideal, if that's the right word for it, in your ideal world, how would it look to be implemented?
That's interesting. That is a tough question, because it means we are so far away from this that I never even entertained the idea. I just know that that's what I would encourage people to do.
Sure.
If I had the chance, I would encourage them to explore their options.
Right.
If they're not ready, if they can't financially, if they're not financially stable, there are other options always,
Right. If there was
other
rape,
than abortion.
incest.
Right. But I think it's something I would have to think about, because I never even thought about
So
this world.
Right. So maybe you're thinking like on the fight would be culturally, not politically as hard. It would be more, meaning we would have conversations with,
Right,
we would have
right.
alternatives, we would have resources for those who are newly, freshly pregnant,
Right.
to know what their options are, and not necessarily, you know what I mean? Like the fight would be more conversation.
Right. And there's this story I heard. I was
I'm gonna open my nicotine gum.
Okay, I was at this convention in D.C., Road to Majority, and they were showing, I think that's where I saw this, but there was this example where a woman wanted to enter the, Planned Parenthood to have an abortion, and then she saw like it was some sort of bus, and on that bus people were explaining, this was not part of Planned Parenthood, just a separate thing. Those people were kind of encouraging people to seek other options, and this woman who went there, who was had the plan to have an abortion, kind of got curious, what is this? And after talking to people there, she decided to keep the baby.
Right.
It was one conversation on the day that she was going to have an abortion.
Right.
And, just because people don't give options anymore, it's just straight up abortion, next day you can go to work. But, there are other ways. And,
on The Good Girl, who's a friend of the show, she's been on the show a couple of times. She's an anonymous pervert. And we just talk about sex most of the time. But on the last time she was on, she talked about, I think it was episode 78, she talked about being 15 years old, and she was an active alcoholic at the time, and later she got sober. But at that time, she was so deep in her addiction, she didn't know that she was pregnant. She was about 6 weeks or like 5-6 weeks pregnant, and she had this pain. It turned out to be her appendix. So she went to the doctor. They pumped her full of meds because of how much pain she was in for her appendix. And then the doctor, she's 15 years old, she's super, whacked out on the pain medication because she was in a lot of pain. The doctor said, okay, so it turns out you're also pregnant. And what we're going to do is we're going to abort the baby. And this is, so they didn't even give her an option. She's 15 years old.
Oh my God.
And she was too high to like even know what was going on. They said, we're going to give you an abortion, and then we're going to cut out your appendix. And her mom luckily was there. And her mom was like, what do you mean? Like, hang on. What do you mean we're going to?
Thank
you know what I
you.
mean? Like, I'm her legal guardian. Like, I'm her mom. And so they didn't abort. But like the way the Good Girl talked about it was not just that they didn't even give her an option, but that they were miffed about it. That the doctors were like, okay, if you want, I mean, this baby might die, but you can't support it, so okay. Like,
and
this
who
is the
asked
level.
you? Who asked you?
That's what I'm saying. And so I hear these stories, multiple stories, of doctors, of people, of doctors who are. It's not just like, we're going to give you an abortion, and it's such this loving, gentle, free, in work the next day type of thing, where it's like these people are active. They can be annoying and irresponsible and selfish and childish just like anyone else. Just because they have a PhD doesn't mean nothing. And so I've heard multiple stories of that. You know what I mean? And it's scary how, like you were saying, there's this attitude where, of course, this is what you're going to do. Of course, we're going to abort the baby.
Right.
Of course, instead of hearing these options. And I've heard the exact same. Did you see Unplanned, the movie?
I was just going to talk about it.
You saw it?
I didn't actually see it.
Okay.
I saw clips from it, but
It's
heard
really good.
Right, and I've met people who worked on the movie. So, and they were talking in the movie about how, or at least, that's what I heard, is that in Planned Parenthood, the people who actually had experiences and had gotten abortions, those people were telling their testimony, and they said that when they went there, first of all, the baby wasn't called a baby; it was a cluster of cells to dehumanize them.
Right.
They
didn't show ultrasound.
Right. They didn't show that it actually looks like a baby.
Right.
They were told that the operation is so simple and just so not a big deal that the next day you can go back to work. And all of that, and those, I think I'm remembering this was at the Walk for Life March, and those ladies were sharing their testimonies in front of everyone during the rally.
Washington, D.C.?
This was actually the second biggest one in San Francisco.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they were saying that, I did go to back to work the next day, but what they didn't tell me was the guilt that I was going to experience, the nightmares, the horrific feelings around that, and or people who used to work at Planned Parenthood, at some point they got to see what came out of the person, and that it was a baby, and that they weren't allowed to see that before. Anyway, all those examples, people are just being lied to, straight up lied to.
Right. It's and the story of a lot of those people, even people I've had when I posted a few months ago about being annoyed at myself, or not annoyed, but being kind of shocked that I've turned pro-life. It's because it's like my whole life I've just assumed everyone who was pro-life was stuffy and like didn't want anybody to have any fun, whatever. And then so I'm like I'm being honest about it. I was posted on Instagram like, here's this weird feeling I've been having. Again, I'm not ready to say, if you have an abortion, you need to be, in jail or anything crazy. But like, this is this feeling I'm having. I only had 2 women fight me on it on Instagram. These are women I know well. They're good people. And both of them came in kind of swinging a little bit. They were like, this is, I disagree. I think women should be allowed to blah, blah, blah. And surprise, surprise, I'm the only woman talking about it, which of course they would make identity politics, but I understand. So they came in swinging a little bit on the identity politics, but eventually they agreed on the exact same thing I did. Eventually, because they are women who have had multiple abortions. And so, of course, they're defensive. They're women.
Right.
And I'm a half-white male, you know what I mean? Like, who's talking about this stuff. So they came in swinging a little bit, but eventually they were like, yeah, I agree. It isn't just a clump of cells because it was hugely painful experience, not just physically, but also emotionally. One of them, I think, or both of them, one of them talked about being in a depressive state for months afterwards, this heavy decision that she made. I think one of them talked about it wasn't even a decision she made. Her body just couldn't handle, you know what I mean? And so it was going to be, I think it was in the fallopian tube pregnancy. I think that's one of those things. And so she not only is it not just a clump of cells, it was a heavy experience, but also I don't think just because you're a guy, you're not allowed to have an opinion on this. And those are 2 women who have had abortions and who are super pro-choice, but we're like, yeah, no, I agree. There's got to be some sort of a limit. You know what I mean? I think eventually we're getting to that point. I have hope, you know what I mean? But I think I'd like to talk to you about this because you're someone who has come out as a Republican. Did you ever see Milk, the movie?
No.
Milk, about Harvey Milk? So in Milk, he's a movie based on a true story. The first elected openly gay official to San Francisco city supervisor, something like that. And he talked about the way to make homosexuality more okay is for people to come out. Because if the people who are anti-gay know that their cousin is gay, or know that their milkman is gay, or know that the guy at the grocery store, or their mom, or somebody that they know is gay, they'll be like, oh, I actually know one of these people, and they're not bad.
Right.
And they'll start to change their mind. I feel the same way about conservatism. I feel like the only way to make conservatism or libertarianism or whatever you want is for us to come out.
Right.
Is not to hide in the background, slowly, quietly supporting so that we don't get canceled. I think the way to make it okay is for us to, once they know that, a lot of these people who listen every episode are like super liberal, but they've started to realize, well, since I know Pete and I love Pete and I don't think Pete's a piece of crap, for some reason I'm okay with listening to this, and for some reason, it's okay. It becomes more nuanced and flowering into context and into complication, which is where this is. It's gray area. So what do you feel as far as the coming out goes?
The same friend I mentioned earlier, that
Who fought you on it?
Yeah, on ICE. She mentioned that I've known you for years, Lily. I know you have a good heart. And I was like, okay, so she's remembering that I'm not a Nazi. Okay, that's good. Right. But she still kept going, like, how can you, like, is this an act? Are you just trying to, like, get attention from whatever?
Right.
And why? I know you're a good person. Why are you doing this?
Right.
And I know in my heart that Democrats aren't.
You can do it. I know what you're going to do. You can do it.
What?
I know what you're going to say.
No, I don't know. They genuinely believe that we are Nazis or whatever the names they call us.
Sure.
They genuinely believe that because of just how deeply brainwashed they are. And so I also think that she has a good heart, and she's not trying to, she
doesn't have bad intentions.
Exactly.
Right.
So, the way you were phrasing it is that, oh, they know you're a good person, so maybe it will help them. It didn't, like, with her, she was just so confused,
Right.
and with a lot of people, like, I know you're a good person, why are you doing this?
Right.
And in a lot of situations, it still won't work. They'll say, I thought you were a good person, bye.
Right.
So it's always different. It's case by case.
Right.
But yeah, that was my experience. I think maybe also because I'm very extreme. Like, every single post of mine is gonna be on politics because, like, it's everywhere. I
I've seen
can't
you
get
do
away.
like more social ones, like, hey, me and the girls getting coffee.
I can't remember of that.
Do
but,
those girls continue, sir?
But especially in a city like this is a very extreme city, San Francisco.
Yeah.
Come on.
Right.
So it's just difficult to get away from it, especially with everything that's happening. The Mueller hearing. How do you not talk about this? All of these things happening. The squad.
Right.
All of these things come out, and you just talk about them.
Right.
You can't not. I can't not.
So even when you have, I have seen you post social gatherings, like regular girl selfies is what I call them. When a girl and all her girlfriends like take a selfie, it's cute. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying those are regular. So are those liberal people? Like, are they okay with you or?
Okay, I think you misunderstood. Those girl selfies were from an event where we saw Trump. Like,
okay. No, I've seen those too. But I think like it was a work thing or something. Anyway, maybe you're right. Maybe everything. But like, do you still have social gatherings? And because I find maybe it's because I'm a musician more than a podcaster or something, but I have a lot of people in a lot of different walks of life, and I try not to, that Christian saying of don't be unequally yoked. I try to be equally yoked. You know what I mean? I try to be like a finger in everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I won't say that joke, but I like to have friends of all walks of life, and as long as they don't go like, here's this thing I think about Trump, then it's like we usually are okay. And I pick my battles. Right. Are you able to do that?
Or
maybe do you prefer
ever since I walked away from the Democrats,
#walk away.
all those Democrats disappeared. They're no longer part of my life. But what I found incredibly powerful for me was that at that point in time when everyone I know just turned their back to me, that's when I discovered Christianity, and that's when I started going to church. And so when everybody turned their back, God was there. Mm-hmm. And from there, I found this amazing community of like-minded people. And even some... There are also some of them Democrats, but at least they're not like this extreme, you know. So we hang out, we have our beloved communities, we get coffee or go on adventures together. It's nice. So that is the group of people that I hang out with. That's pretty much all I have, and that's more than enough to me.
Right. And even if they are Democrat Christians, at least they're coming from a place of trying to be altruistic.
Yes.
They're trying to be giving, trying to be supportive, trying to be listening, trying to turn the other cheek, trying to implement these principles that they've learned.
They are so kind, so kind. Like they know. Some of them, had friended me on Facebook, and so they know, But just so much love coming out of it's just. It's amazing. I'm so happy. I don't know how I would deal with this city if I hadn't found that church.
So you didn't. So from what I've heard, Russia seems like a very Catholic or Christian place, right?
Yeah.
It's very God-centric. Mm-hmm. So when you were growing up, was it already implemented?
I was a Christian. Like, it was a label that I already had, but I wasn't practicing it. I just called myself a Christian. I wore a cross. I'd been to church maybe 3 times in my life, and that's only because my family went for a second, but now, I go to, I try to make all the services, the Bible studies, all kinds of meetings. So this, for people who feel alone in liberal cities, I feel like this is a beautiful way to get into a community and find support.
And not always, though, because I sometimes go to these certain gatherings at this church, and it's a Unitarian church, and maybe that's the reason why. But they're big on. They have this giant sign outside that says "Refugees welcome" and "Immigrants are welcome here." And blah, blah, blah.
Black Lives Matter.
Right, and it's at a church, and they're getting political. So
it depends. It depends on the church. I'm sorry, I should have said it. It depends on the church.
It does
Because nowadays, I see that they're trying to use their platform to
Right.
push a certain agenda.
Right.
One time that happened at my church and I addressed it. But yeah.
What do you mind sharing why? Or sharing
Okay,
what
so
happened?
this one person who doesn't usually preach, he was asked to preach on that one day, and he started making comments about, of course, he had to make comments about Trump. Deep breath. Okay, and he was saying, I don't know what I would do if I met a Trump supporter. I don't want to be shot. And that's when I was like, I looked around and I said, is anybody gonna say something? Am I the only one to say something? I was so ready to just get up and just leave and never go back to that church ever. During the service, one of the pastors who knows about my political affiliation actually messaged me and said sorry about the Trump comments. So that kind of gave me peace.
Right.
And then I was just so disappointed, and I told my coworker, I can't believe I did this at church. Even at church, I can't get away from this.
Right.
And my coworker sent me this video that was so helpful, just changed everything for me. Pretty much the conclusion of it was that you don't go to church for the people, you go there for God.
Right.
It doesn't matter what people are trying to falsely teach.
Right.
You're going there for the Lord, and that's
Right.
what you should focus on, not the people.
Right.
And that gave me so much peace, and I'm just happy that I went back.
Right.
I feel like if I didn't go back, then that guy would have succeeded, and yeah.
Right. Yeah. And did you talk to him personally after that?
No.
Did you flash your gun? Just to be fun.
No. I don't really get to. I rush. I work on Sundays, and so I asked my workplace for religious accommodation so I could take a 2-hour break. I go to the service and go right back to work. So
Right.
that's how important it is to me.
Right. Yeah, I went to church. Actually, the good girl brought me to church. I know that shocks the fans of the show. We're like, she goes to church? Yeah, she likes God. And I went to church maybe 6 months ago with her. And it's my first time in church in a long time.
Nice.
And I was like, outside of it, because I'm a spiritual person. I don't think that I'm not an atheist for sure. Shout out Benjo. And because I noticed the first thing I felt was the fact that number one, everybody was nice and welcoming, and number two, and I'm not saying this is everybody's experience in every church, and then they talked about the good stuff they were doing, meaning, hey, you know all that money you've been putting in the basket? Here's what it's gone to. You've
Right.
fed kids in Ghana. You've gave people in Papua New Guinea books to read.
Right.
You've helped build a hospital in XYZ country. So like these people are actually doing something altruistic. They're actually doing. And I grew up in a church that. I don't know the exact details, but it was a church in Long Island that we were super a part of, and my mom and dad were like part of the band, and it was we were poor on purpose because of how much we were tithing and things like that. It was we were super.
Yeah.
We didn't even celebrate Halloween. We celebrate this thing called Elohim, where like I dressed up as like the lion from the what's the story from the oh, you're a bad Christian. No, it was anyway, Judah. No, that's Judah in the Wild. Anyway, so like we dressed up like Christian stuff for Halloween,
gotcha,
because we didn't want to
gotcha.
feed that dark. So we were super Christian, and then it turns out later that not only were they taking too much money, but it turns out that one of the pastors I think was using it for prostitutes. So we grew up in this, and all of a sudden this giant revelation happens, and it's this hypocrisy, and so we pulled out of the church. Later on, through experiences, my dad talked about, being super anti and mad at God for a long time, and then coming back, and then now he doesn't necessarily go to a congregation, but he has a strong relationship with his God, and it is, often I'll be calling him and talking to him about music stuff. What do I do about this? Blah blah. And he will, well, remember, Pete, it does say in Proverbs, blah blah blah. So,
I love it.
So I get it, but I getting to see it in real action, in real time, that these people actually have not only altruism and spirituality, but number two, they practice it, and number three, it's a structure which my irresponsible brain, especially in my 20s, no structure, no tradition, die, blah, realizes as I'm getting older, there's incredible benefit to structure. There's incredible benefit to
Yes.
having a community of people who are all doing
Yes.
kind of the same thing, and not just doing the same thing in a negative way, but doing the same thing in a positive way.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And trying to open things up. And the churches I've gone to have never been anti-gay. The churches I've been to, maybe they'll dip into like, hey, gay marriage, blah, blah, blah. But that was back in like before 2010. Like everybody's like kind of, there's gay pastors now. It's not a big deal. You know what I mean? Like things are open. Because even in that, I mean, it does say in, oh man, what is it? Corinthians? I think it says in Corinthians, Peter or Paul. I think it was Paul, right?
I
You gotta
have
look
my
it up.
app right here.
Let's do it. We're going to quote the
Okay,
book.
go ahead.
He says that women shouldn't talk in church, right?
Huh.
So if we were by the letter of the law, by the letter of the book, sure, there wouldn't be gay pastors and women wouldn't talk in prayer. But we all know that this is their structure, even though some words aren't necessarily to be taken as rote, to be taken as law. You know what I mean? And a lot of times, anti-Christian people will quote Leviticus when it comes to the anti-homosexuality or whatever, and that's the old book. Like, I'm not saying that there's no benefits to the old book, but these Christian people are living by the new book. These Christian people are living by the revelation and afterwards in the Messiah. Like it's not even like to quote that old stuff is like to say, well, remember that one guy in that one church who said that one thing. So that means let's throw out this entire religion based on what this person said.
I have this friend, and he grew up in church, and he's very, very into it. Really a man of God.
Right.
And I
Russian
asked
guy?
him, no.
Okay.
And I asked him, how do you feel about gay people? Because you are so, such a, so into this. How do you feel about gay people? And he said, and this blew me away. He said, my job is to love people. I just want to love people. Who can I show love to today? And that's what it comes, comes down to.
Right.
It's just about being welcoming, being kind towards each other. A lot of Democrats, as soon as they hear you're a Christian, they're like, oh, anti-gay, homophobic, transphobic, blah 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 blah.
Anti-woman.
It's just so many stereotypes
Right.
that is just not true.
Right.
Just not true, and they just won't listen.
Right.
It's really sad. If
Right.
there were conversations happening, maybe we could have gotten somewhere, but they're just not into having conversations.
Right. And I think they're as like the unequally yoked thing. When I look at him saying in the Bible, don't be unequally yoked, it doesn't mean don't hang out with non-Christians. Because I mean, even Jesus hung out with prostitutes. You know what I mean? Like Jesus was,
Yes.
let me wash your feet.
Mhm.
He wasn't, don't come in this house. And the
Right.
Democrats are coming from this place of don't come in this house.
Right.
Once I don't know what I would do if I met a Trump supporter. These are, if you really want to live by God principles and Christian principles, you wouldn't be like that.
Yes.
You wouldn't be, I don't know anyone who's black. I don't know anyone who's conservative. I don't know anyone who's liberal. That's a childish way to live.
Yeah.
To
it's
close.
sad.
That's yeah. That's actually the closed-mindedness. So how's everything else going with you?
Can we talk about the Mueller Report?
Let's do it. Thank God I have someone who's well versed on things. 'Cause I am not.
I watched it. I think it was yesterday.
So did you watch the original report when it came out?
I watched the hearing.
Okay.
That was just the other day. I watched over 3 hours of it, and boy, what a train wreck! It was a
You
good.
watched 3 hours.
I
of the
enjoyed
Mueller
every
report?
second of
Good
it.
God.
Every second. So it was a
I can't
good
even
day.
get to the gym.
It was. I was like, I have to know what's going on. See, that's the thing about conservatives. We like doing our research, so
Absolutely.
that we are aware.
But 3
So,
hours, yeah. I do research,
it was
but
so
not 3 hours.
entertaining. I think
Continue,
it
please.
depends. It was very entertaining to me. It's just like amazing.
Yeah, it was
especially
titillating.
that I love seeing Democrats fail. It was amazing. I would. It would.
Vindication. It just feels good. It's just like, gotcha.
I'm trying to phrase this. I would hate to be a Democrat right now
I know,
after that hearing.
right?
Yeah. So
Ooh, you've got notes.
Yeah, I've got some like I remember
Love
the
it.
quotes from some of the people who spoke, and they are just so good. I keep listening to their
That white guy
videos.
congressman with a blue jacket, he is on fire, dude. I saw him in
Yeah.
another video. I
Yeah.
can't remember his name, but he is on fire for that. Actually, it says in the continue,
Right,
please.
right. So the takeaway from the Democrats was that Trump wasn't exonerated, correct?
Right.
And this is what CNN said. I tried after watching the hearing. I turned on CNN because I was like, let's see how they make this work for them in their favor, because this was so bad for Democrats.
Right.
How are they going to come out of this? And of course, the line they had on the screen was that Trump was never exonerated. And what Republicans are replying to that is that it was never his job to exonerate Trump. Like, prosecutors, they either charge you or they don't.
Right.
Anything else doesn't matter. Okay? And no prosecutor ever exonerates anyone.
No, that's
okay?
what a
That's
jury
just
or a
not their
judge does.
job.
Right.
Yeah. So
If it goes to trial, which it did not.
right. And that's what the CNN focused on, and that was the only thing they could focus on, which again didn't mean anything.
Right.
And I absolutely love what some of the Republicans said about the volume 2 of the report, that it was unauthorized, that it didn't matter because they were talking about potential things that he wasn't charged for in the first place. Okay, that he wrote over 100 pages on something that never happened, that he was never charged for. And it was just the way Mueller was behaving during the hearing was his replies were just, I don't even know why he was there. He could have just used a recorder and just like play outside of my purview. I'm not gonna answer that.
Yeah, he looked sheepish and old. He just looked like, I don't know what. Huh?
And then he would say, my favorite one was like, I refer you back to the report. And then one time he actually said, if it's in the report, I refer you to the report. Don't you know? It's your report. Of course he didn't. Mueller himself didn't read the Mueller report. Let that sink in. I know there's a lot of pages. I know he had a team. He probably the team wrote it and he signed off. But aren't you even curious to read your own report that has your name on it? What an embarrassment. And there was such a build-up about this that Democrats were like, oh, this is going to happen and Trump is going to be impeached and this is our hero. The Hollywood made comics on him because they thought he was their superhero. What an embarrassment. What a sad day to be a Democrat.
Right. Did you see the clip? I saw this clip of 2 years worth of the Mueller investigation, and it showed clip after clip on CNN, on MSNBC, and all these left-leaning media outlets. That was every word was, the walls are closing in. Everything's this is the watershed moment. This is the tipping point. This is the turning point.
Yeah.
And they use these same talking points over and over. And it said January of 2017, February of 2017, July of 2017, all the way up through all of 2018. It was always, this is the watershed moment. New bombshell developments. And for 3 years, there's been bombshell developments and tipping points. It's just like, can you let go, dude? Nothing. Can you realize at the very least, can you guys in the left at least realize that Trump is right about one thing, if nothing else, that the media is awful? Can you please at least concede to that? At least acquiesce to the fact that the media is lying. If you look, and not just lying, but that they're not built because of the way TV and the way humans interact with stimuli, that the media is just giving you stimulus. The media is just there to titillate you, to get you to keep watching and come back to watching. Oh, this is the bombshell moment. Oh, this is a turning point. They're just in it for that. And that's what Trump's been saying. You're liars. You're guys who are not being honest. You're fake news. Can you at least, even if you hate Trump, can you please let go of the idea that he's wrong when it comes to the media? He's not saying screw all journalists. I don't think Trump is the most emotionally mature person. No offense. I like the dude, but I don't think, whatever. But he's right when it comes to the media. He's absolutely correct.
Absolutely. Just, there's so many instances where I found out how media tried to trick us. For example, when Trump was becoming a president, they showed up 4 hours before the thing even started to show that the crowd was barely there, but it hadn't even started for 4 more hours.
Right.
It's things like that you just don't know that are happening. They're just doing anything they can to trick us.
And
So.
as a rebellious person, and I think you probably relate to this, I have a good nose for BS. I have a good nose for when I'm trying to be sold something or lied to.
Right.
Anytime, and maybe this is just because I was years as a salesman as well, but anytime I'm in T-Mobile or I'm in another sales store and they try to start selling to me, I can easily go, no, not interested. No, I don't need it. Because I can smell it. I can smell the desperation. I can smell the manipulation. And I'm very good at that type of stuff.
And on behalf of the Russians, leave us alone. Leave us alone. I just want to live.
Can I live?
A lot of times I will make videos where I'm discussing certain political points, and the comments I'll see from strangers who never met me. After the video was shared 1,000 times, some strangers will comment, someone from Russia? Coincidence? I don't think so. Really? Really? Isn't that discrimination?
Right. So I remember actually your first walkaway video. You got a lot of positive reviews from that.
Yes.
Don't. Oh yes, dear.
That got me.
So you got a lot of love for that.
Yeah, I received a lot of love for that. Yeah, I met some amazing people.
Was it heartening? Did it make you feel like you had a home in a way?
It was, yes, absolutely. And especially when I met all of them in person and just like hugged people I never even met before, but just could feel this kind, good energy. I had never felt anything like that before. Maybe it's because I've been so abused emotionally in this city that I just wasn't used to people being nice to me. But it was unlike anything I've ever experienced before.
Right. So what's your next? I mean, for those who don't know, what's the walkaway movement?
Oh, the walkaway movement is about former Democrats who are seeing what is going on in the country and how extreme Democrats are becoming, and so they are choosing to walk away from that violence, that hatred, that agenda, and are starting to do their own research and decide what party they want to be a part of, or if they want to be a part of any party. But the point is to just leave that hatred and intolerance that we are seeing on the left over and over again. And we don't want to be a part of that anymore. And so they are #walkaways and also walk with. Those are the people who were always Republican or who never were Democrat, but they are just supporting the walkaways.
What I've noticed, it wasn't news to me, but it made me feel really good and gave me more points. What time is it, by the way?
12:20.
Okay. So we'll go a few more minutes.
Yeah.
What made me feel really good about those videos is that every time on the Walkaway movement page, someone posted, "Hey, I'm gay," or "I'm a lesbian," or "I'm trans," or "I'm black," and I'm walking away. Every comment, there wasn't one who was like, "Get out of here, black person," or blah blah blah. I would say a bad word, but Lily's here. But like every comment was, "Hey, thanks, welcome aboard." You know what I mean? Like every comment was positive.
The comment that I absolutely love that I always hear them say?
Sure.
Welcome home.
Welcome home.
Welcome home. I love that. And walkaway is just it's this space where it doesn't matter who you are. Right. It doesn't matter your identity, your sexuality, your race, immigration status. No matter what you are welcome, as long as you don't want that hatred, that violence, physical violence, emotional abuse. As long as you're not a part of that, we love you, we welcome you.
Right. Yeah, the biggest thing is always, and I've been talking about this a lot, but is this idea of principles before personalities. So like as an example, the whole grab them by the thing. Oh, well, I'll cut it out. Okay. Well, Trump said it, but anyway, I'll cover it. So the whole grab him by the P word thing. What Trump was saying was he was being hyperbolic. He was saying a joke. He was saying something over the top to get. We all know that by now. If you're listening to this show and you're like, "What Pete said?" No, but go listen to it. I go into much detail with many different guests from many walks of life. What he was saying with that was a hyperbolic joke. Now, there are people who get mad at Trump for saying that, but won't get mad at Louis C.K. for saying that, but won't get mad at Chris Rock for saying that, but won't get mad at some, Jesse Jackson for saying "Hi Me Town." You know what I mean? Like there are these people who will put personality before principle, and in my personal view, if you put personality above the principle, you do not really believe in the principle. You do not really believe in freedom of speech unless you want freedom of speech for everyone. Freedom of speech only is really a beautiful thing when it's someone who you violently disagree with, who you like, ugh, KKK. I had a half black, half white abuse survivor on my show, not on video, but Zabrana's mom. Check it out. It's a great episode. It's very slow. She talks about abuse, surviving, and all this stuff. But she also talks about being half black and half white, and how she wasn't black enough for the black community. She wasn't white enough for the white community back in the South, or in the rural California and Oregon. And she talked about how even though she's black, she thinks that the KKK should be allowed to march. As long as they're not being violent, they should be allowed to march.
Wow.
Because freedom of speech, the principle, is so important to keep that door open that it doesn't matter. As long as, and the reality is there's like 7 of them. They're not, they're not a threat. They're a couple of pathetic little boys from, who can't get laid, who are mad. I could say laid, right?
Yeah, but also remember, where did the KKK start? Where did it start? Thank you. Take the credit.
Right. So, like, the reality is that they're not even anything. They're not a threat. And so, ultimately, just fine. Have a little rally. We'll rally on this side of the street and say we hate you, and you can stay on that side and say we hate you, and then it'll be fine. It'll be over. But the moment you try to silence free speech, the moment you want to get rid of the principle based on where the principle, whose mouth it's coming out of, then you don't really believe in freedom of speech. You don't really believe it. You want a fascist dictatorship where your trusted guy is up there, where big daddy government, big white liberal daddy knows best and is going to condescend to us all and tell us what's right and wrong. And that's just not where I'm coming from, man. It's just disturbing, and so ultimately, principles before personalities is the way.
That's a very interesting story. I never thought of that. That's interesting to hear her say that.
Yeah, it's a great episode.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we have another minute. Do you want to say anything else? Do you feel like you ranted enough, my dear?
Yeah. I feel like I got my dose. I'm good.
Good. Yeah. Where can people find your stuff?
My Facebook is Lily Akopova,
Spell that for people. There we go.
Akopova. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions, if you want to debate. I love that. I will probably destroy your argument, but you can try. Any
nice Christian Russian men, feel free to find her. And then the Walkaway movement, where can people find that stuff?
#Walkaway campaign on Facebook. #Walkaway campaign. Founded by my favorite person, Brandon Struck. Check it out. Feel free to upload your video. We have, people who review the videos, and just, tell us your story. Tell us, even if you walked away a while ago, even if it's been years, let us know your story, what caused it, because it helps a lot of people to know that they are not alone, and every single person has their own story, and we just love watching it and hearing you share. So please feel free to, if you don't feel like posting a video, you can always write a written testimonial. That's fine too. Whatever you're comfortable with, no judgment at all. We love you. We look forward to hearing from you.
Awesome. Now, for those, I have many different types of episodes. This is but if you like, most of the time, libertarian offensiveness, I'm your guy. There's a new episode every Monday, CONSERVATISH. And you can find me on Instagram at Peter_Feliciano. My big giant album release party is going to be September 13th at the Brick and Mortar Music Hall. All you people who are looking for conservative artists, you got to give me money. Shower me with your money and applause. You can buy tickets now for that at TicketWeb, or just Google it. Peter Feliciano Brick and Mortar. You'll find it. Buy your tickets there. $12 in advance, $15 at the door. Doors open at 8. What else? There will be there's ways to support this podcast and my musical endeavors. For $1 a month, or $5 a month, $20 a month, you can sign up at patreon.com/conservatish, or just shoot me a couple of bucks on Venmo or PayPal. And you can, if you're signed up for the Patreon, you'll get access to specific videos that are just from me, music covers that are just from me, that are just for you, memes that I share or memes that I make, my recommended podcast episodes, my recommended books, my recommended video links, and you can be even closer to my wonderful face. And then let's see. That's it. Just share this podcast. Make sure you subscribe down there in the button on YouTube. Hit the little bell, and share this with your less offendable friends. And I love you all very much. Bye. Thank you so much for coming on.
Bye.
Lily.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye.